Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello. Fearless Freedom Tribe, Dr. G is here. And I hope that you are doing fantastic. Today, we have Victoria Lowell, and she's going to tell you all about herself and what she is up to.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. G. It's such an honor to be here. And thank you to your audience for tuning in and listening. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
Awesome. So tell us what you do.
I started a company called Empowered Worth back in 2019. Did the most crazy thing, quite frankly, a fearful jump into entrepreneurship for me. I left working at Wall Street. I was working at Wall Street for 8 years as a financial advisor, and I was dealing primarily with women. I just got so tired of having all these women who would come to me, and they were amazing, and they were suffering through divorce and not having had tapped into any of their financial power and their finances, and they were suffering because of that. And I decided I've been put here to change the narrative. I'm here. I have all this education. I have walked their walk in terms of having basically put all of the financial pressure in my family on my husband. It's time for me to give back. So that's what became slowly a passion for me. And in 2018, I went to a client's empowerment retreat. And I went just to support my client, and she ended up changing my life. So 2019, I started Empowered Worth.
Okay. And so, it's interesting that you saw a pain point that you said that you also had. So
yeah.
So then what happened? So did you just what happened? What was the next step?
Well,
so your client kind of gave you the epiphany, and then.
Yeah, it's weird because I thought that back when I went through my financial awakening, which happened in 2008 with obviously the whole market crash. Right. I woke up one day and said, "Oh my God, I don't even know what my mortgage is. What happens if this incredible man dies? I wouldn't know where to go for where's the life insurance policy? I didn't know anything. I was living in that Cinderella bubble, I like to call it, where I'm happily ever after, and I didn't know what the ever after actually meant. So I thought I was alone. I'm working in finance, and I start hearing all these stories. I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually one of these incredible women. I have walked their walk. I can show them how to get there. I can show them how to grab financial empowerment. And maybe they don't end up working for a Wall Street firm like I did, but they will definitely be more in touch with their financial apathy. And that's really what it is. It's financial apathy. It's just that we're not connecting with it because of societal conventions that we've been fed our whole lives. So I created a platform that's Empowered Worth. I provide personal finance education via an on-demand course. I do coaching. I also help with divorce financials and college funding sources and student loan kind of planning and how we're going to pay for that, and all those type of things that women are kind of suffering through financially in this country.
Yeah. That's that definitely is a huge need, because I can tell you that I mean, I have talked to people who no idea. I'm like, are you kidding? Like, do you not not invest? Do you not get the charity? What are you doing?
Oh, it's shocking. I remember when I wrote my book, talking about my grandmother in the book and how she didn't even know how to write a check. And while most of the women I met didn't know how to write a check, I had women who literally would say to them, dealing with a divorce, where does the income come from? And they would say, well, my husband's a businessman. Okay, where does the income come from? They couldn't tell you anything about what their husbands did for a living except that he was an entrepreneur. and he had a business, and they did not know how that business was structured or anything. No idea. No, they couldn't help you with the financials of the divorce because they had no idea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's hard. So it's always kind of funny to me because I know like one of the things that, we were counseled on before we got married. First of all, we got married late. I was like 30 when I got married, but I guess it's considered late these days. I don't know. But one of the things we were counseled on was have conversations about parenting and have conversations about money. Like, for example, establish whether it's going to be one account, whether it's going to be separate accounts, like what's going to be the deal, like who's going to handle the bills. Is it going to be, one person's income covers X or Y and the other person, like really establish all those things before you tie the knot, right? Because
yes.
You tend not to talk about those things after. And then, all the other stuff like life insurance, and make sure you have the life insurance, make sure you have a will. Even if you're like 20, make sure you have a will.
We don't have the uncomfortable conversation until it's too late. And that's just true of so many things. And I think particularly with finance, I counsel a lot of my clients' children now who are starting to get married or starting to move in together to start having that conversation. The fact that you got financial counseling or marital counseling that included financial counseling pre-marriage, I think is fantastic. I wish that it were required, because I will sit down with a couple who will say, I didn't know she had student loan debt. When we got married. I'm like, how did you not ask this question? I'm like, it never came up. It never came up. And I think right now to say it never came up is really an excuse, and it's a bad one. I think we all know, hey, let's talk about money. Look at, I've written blogs on this. Look at how you're spending money. I think Valentine's Day is so telling. If you have, or you're with a girl, let's say, who expects you to buy her diamonds and you're not making enough to even pay your rent, and she's bitter about it, she makes you feel bad, she might have a spending issue, and you better find out about that. There's a lot of things that we can just look at, and I think it's so important. And I'm a big proponent of prenuptial agreements. Even if you don't have a lot of money, I first of all, I really do think that why not talk about these things when you're in love as opposed to when you hate each other and you're going through divorce. But also because there's a lot of discovery that goes on during the prenuptial process. So you kind of have to lay all your finances out there and bare to really be able to draft that document. And now you know. Same thing, if you're moving in together and you don't believe in marriage, a lot of millennials just want to cohabitate. You need a cohabitation agreement. You need one, because in some states, guess what? After 5 years of living together, you are technically married. Yeah. So it's important. And I think it's so fantastic that you got that. I wish more people would. And I wish that we would just change the narrative that we don't talk about money, which is what it comes down to.
But that whole not talking about money transitions to a lot of different things, because that is true. Because I look at it like this. So as a physician, like, I can't really go to a colleague and be like, hey, how much money do you make? Or like, hey, like, and I think that's really ridiculous, because what happens with that is a scenario like this. So you may have two residents that graduate from residency and they get offered the same job. One's male, one's female, and the male can sometimes be offered tens of thousands of dollars more than the female for the same skill set. And so if you're not talking to each other, then that is something that is gotten away with, right? And so you are like, and over time, that's a huge amount of money that is left on the table from, from a woman's standpoint. And so it's like, it's so crazy that we don't talk about money, because it's like, well, what's the big deal? Like, people expect that you're gonna like do a thing and get paid for it. Like, so why would we not talk about it? I don't know.
I so agree with you. And I think particularly for women, it's really important that we network with each other, not only within our same companies, but in the same industry, and ask, hey, what are you making? What's the average? Because how can we negotiate? You don't go into a negotiation blind. You have to have a point there to know this is what the average of what I'm making. I wish that we could just call up a hospital and say, what is your story? But it doesn't work like that. So we have to talk. We have to talk to each other. And quite frankly, I do think that a lot of those conventions come in a way to kind of maybe keep the pay disparity going that we see among minorities and among women. And I think that it's really, really, once we demystify it and we talk about it, then it can't be over our heads anymore. That glass ceiling is there because we don't talk about the glass ceiling. If we talk about it, then our voices will scream out and shatter it. That's really my feeling about that and about so many other things. Let's just talk about it. Talk about money. Talk about what you're making. Talk about how you're investing. Talk about the lack of child care in your company. Get a movement going so that you can change that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so it's so I say all that because clearly your service is well needed. because of stuff like that. And these are like and obviously these are situations that are happening in all the professions. It's not just medicine. I'm sure it's happening in in law and in business and pretty much everywhere. So but people just don't talk about it, and as you said, it makes it difficult to know where to start and what to bring to the negotiation table, because if you know what the range is and you know what the range is for your level of expertise, then you can better go in informed so that you can say, all right, this is the deal. Like, I am not leaving with, I'm not leaving with less than this, right? And so,
right.
But then if you don't have a threshold, you can't really negotiate properly or effectively.
Exactly. And I tell people who say, I feel uncomfortable, I tell them, so you don't know what people make. I go, you know what people make. We all know what politicians make. It's public knowledge. You know what professional athletes make. Professional athletes, their agents go back to the owners when they're signing contracts and say, well, look, these many receivers made this, and these are their stats, and this is comparable. That's how we do it. It's like when you're buying and selling a house. You know what the square footage is going for. You gotta have the comps. You have to do that. And once you put it in that vernacular, I think people start to feel more comfortable about it. But that's why you see a lot of these athletes get these gigantic contracts, because they know what they're worth and they're charging it.
Hey, and I'm not mad at them. I think it's great. I mean, I wish she would do the same thing.
Yes, but imagine the power. I always say when you see things that they say, oh, I remember back in the day, Friends, the cast got together and negotiated as a collective with their producers to make X amount. The power that they had because they were negotiating together. Imagine what would happen if every cardiologist in a hospital said, hey, we're all up for renewal. Why don't we get together? This is how many surgeries we're doing. This is how much the hospital makes per surgery. We produce X. It's a mathematical formula, and this is what we're worth. So now, here, give it to us.
Yeah. Nah, it sounds very reasonable.
Yeah.
I don't know if the hospital thinks that though, but yeah.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. No one wants us talking about money. And that's the sad thing about it.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, I mean.
Well, I want you to, and I just had this conversation recently because my friends always laugh because we get together. And I one time said, I go, we talk about everything. We talk about sex, we talk about religion, we talk about politics, but we don't talk about money. And everybody says, oh no, we can't talk about money. I go, we've had conversations at at my dinner table having wine about 50 Shades of Grey and somebody getting spanked, but yet we have a problem talking about a 401k. I want you to really think about that. That's where we've gone. We won't talk about that at all. At all. It's why. Why is money so dirty? Why have we given it? We've actually given money so much power over ourselves. It's a taboo topic of conversation.
I think, and I've had conversations about this whole money mindset thing, and I think it has a lot to do with, number one, our upbringing. So if when you were growing up, there was either a scarcity situation or, there was like some not so healthy habits surrounding money. So maybe there was a parent who was a spendthrift and it caused arguments between the two parents, or maybe there was just not a lot of money around and you weren't able to do some of the things. So whatever we experience as in our childhood, sometimes that converts to how we manage money as adults. So it could be like, if we had the spendthrift parent, then maybe we might be the one who is just hoarding all the money. Like, you're not spending anything on yourself. You're just constantly, like, every cent you make, you're packing it away, that, that's not being going to bills or whatever, but like, that could be your
Totally.
concept. Yeah. Or
Totally.
it could be that you might find yourself attracted to somebody who's like your parent, and it frustrates you and it causes you a lot of angst and a lot of anguish. So yeah, it's fascinating how like it's got a background in us.
With what I do, I hear so many stories, because that's one of the first things I do. And one of the questions that is so telling for me is when I ask somebody, what's your first memory of money? For a lot of women, it's their mother asking for money. And what ensued after? Was it a fight? Was it some sort of sexual situation for her to get that money from your father? What was it that happened? And that's where the relationship with money starts. Your relationship with money started when you were a child. We all had it. We some of us may have had that uncle or aunt that gave you the $2 bill if you gave him a kiss. That's a relationship with money. You were taught something in that moment. So we need to really, I think, break it down and do the homework and unpack all of that so that we can start to have a healthy relationship with money. But you are spot on that, yes, it comes from not only, I would say, what we saw, but what our family generationally saw. I recently had a conversation with somebody. We were talking about our grandparents who went through the Depression. And that is still affecting us. That's why some of us hoard. It's not because we're hoarding. It's because we saw the hoarding mentality from people who had literally nothing. They were starving during the Depression. So they hoarded everything. And we're walking around. I mean, there's a TV show, Hoarders. You see people doing it. It's why? Why are they doing that? The Millionaire Next Door, that incredible book that came out back in the early 2000s, where it talked about these people who were sitting and they were millionaires, and you couldn't tell that by looking at them. They were hoarding money.
Yeah.
They were hoarding money. So you do have to, I think, kind of really unpack that and look at that and get into knowing, and it's something I cover in my book, the 4 different types of money personality. Are you a money avoider? Are you a money worshiper? Are you a money vigilant? Think about those. Which one am I, and why am I one of those?
Yeah, no, it's it's funny because like we talk about money a lot in our house.
Good. I wish more people would.
Yeah, it's fun for us. That's why.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Like people like Monopoly. Everybody says, it's funny because Monopoly is actually it's a pretty popular game. I think people still buy it. It's a really long game to play. I still tell everybody who buys it, buy the Monopoly that actually has money. Don't buy the credit. There's a new one that's a credit card and you swipe.
Oh my gosh, no. No, say it is not so. That's like sacrilege.
There's a new one. I'm like, no, buy the other one. Have your little kids be the bank. It teaches math skills. But everybody hates it. And I can say in our family, we have dragged down fights because I grew up from a long line of entrepreneurs, and my dad was in sales. So I'm all about making the deal. I want to immediately, as soon as I can, start making side deals. My husband was a strict rule follower. He comes from a family where they follow the rules. So when I try to make side deals, oh my God, the fights when we first get married and we started playing. He's like, "Why are you doing that?" I'm like, "Well, it's Monopoly. Like you're supposed to be working to get more on the money. Get a Monopoly." And he's like, "Oh no, you can't." He gets all upset. We start questioning our values and what we're taught. I think it is. I wish everybody could do that. Do that with your if you're dating, if you're going to marry somebody, bring a game of Monopoly to their house with their parents and their siblings if they have them, and play Monopoly. It's very telling how they. It's when the real money behavior comes out. Is when that Monopoly board hits the table. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's too funny.
It's true. More than that, and the game of life. The game of life, but which is banned in my house, by the way. We are not allowed to play the game of life. Because I had a daughter who never wanted to go to college, and she'd end up winning the game of life, and not have. And my husband was like, I don't want her learning that you can win at life and not go to college, right?
But you can.
But you can. And he was like so upset about that. He's so upset. She's actually leaving the college now in the fall, thank God. But for years, I think he couldn't go to sleep wondering if she was not going to go to college because that game was teaching her the wrong thing. And it's hysterical. It's the whole Varsity Blues thing. Yeah. I remember my husband turning to me and going, well, Aunt Becky was stupid. She just shouldn't have sent that girl to college. She was making $1 million. Why'd you send her to college? I'm like, there you go. The game of life right there.
Yes, indeed. I mean, hey, if you think of something and you patent that thing and that thing is making you a ridiculous residual income, there's no need for you to go to college.
I say it all the time, and people get so mad at me because they're like, Vicky, you're an empowerment. This is what you do for a living. You talk about this. And I always say, I actually believe in a little way in the Kris Jenner school of parenting, which is if your children are making 8 figures, 9 figures, yeah. Why would you put them in college? Will always be there. College isn't going anywhere. And you can get a diploma if you endow a college. If you have enough money, they'll give you a diploma. They'll give you a
yeah, for anywhere.
For anywhere. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But those are the conversations in my house that can lead to high level arguments.
No, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, we've had the whole like, what we've said is the only exemption from college or some kind of like trade something, right? So maybe you don't go to college, but maybe you do like a trade, maybe you do like, graphic design, whatever, but you're doing something, right? Some kind of skill set that you're getting better at. And so if you don't do that, then you have to have a business that's doing very well and can sustain you. So those are the options. Those are the only options.
That to me is the only option. I have no problem if you're leaving college because you're an athlete and this is the moment to go into a draft situation. Of course, that makes total sense. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big proponent, and I do a lot of stuff where I haven't done it, unfortunately, with COVID. I didn't have the opportunity in 2020. I used to sit down with college seniors and talk to them about adulting. And I would always say, you make your biggest financial decision at the age of 17, and that's where you choose to go to college. The degree that costs you $70,000 to $80,000 will probably get you the same amount of money as the person who went to a state school and paid $40,000.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Or even community college. Oh my gosh. Like, to me, like, I was like, oh, I mean, thankfully I was blessed enough to have gotten scholarships to go to school from, I use my brain for this.
Good. But you worked for it. Yeah, you worked for it. Yeah.
Trust me, I was burning the midnight oil in the library. But, but if you don't have that, right? Or if there's not an option, there are so many fantastic community colleges that you literally go there, you can like pay for it like upfront, so there's no debt for the first 2 years. And then if you still want to go to a 4-year after that, you just make sure that when you're choosing a community college, it's one that's going to transfer to the school that you ultimately want to go to. And so therefore you only have 2 years worth of debt versus 4, because it's just like the price now is like unbelievable how much it costs to go to college.
It's out of control, and at the end of the day, and I know that Malcolm Gladwell wrote about this in David and Goliath, you're going to be sitting next to probably the same person that went to state school. That person is probably going to have a higher self-esteem because they weren't as beaten down as maybe you were in an Ivy, where maybe you didn't feel like you were the smartest in the class, and this girl rocked it. She had great resources, because state schools, because they are state funded, have great resources. So I just, and everybody says, the alumni network at some of these schools, some of these Ivies or IBS schools. I'm like, the alumni network is only as good as the student who knows how to use it. Yes. If your child doesn't talk to anybody and has no social skills because they've only been studying and have never done anything else, you're not going to network. And you're wasting money. I'm also a big proponent. And when I used to do this talk, I used to tell them, I go, ask me, because I used to do finance and I used to do high net worth individuals. I said, ask me what my biggest entrepreneur does for a living. They'd all raise their hand. I'm like, he's a plumber.
I believe that.
He's a plumber.
I believe that.
He went to vocational school. His dad was a plumber. He went to vocational school, learned plumbing. He's a commercial plumber and does all the plumbing in most of the high rises in Miami downtown.
That's fantastic.
I go, because the one thing that college will not teach you and high school will not teach you is ambition.
Yes, it's true.
And I wish more parents would hear that and take the pressure off the kids and let them know it's okay to go to community college. It's okay not to have it not to have it figured out. I ended up in finance. I studied human resources.
Yeah.
And really, I got married and basically I put my degree in a closet and raised children for numerous years, dusted that sucker off and realized, oh my God, I have to restart because it had been so many years. So I do think that it's important to have those conversations. I also talk a lot to women about having careers, especially if you are that girl who thinks, I want to stay home, I'm going to want to be with my kids. Pick a career that is easy to do from home. Graphic art, you can work from home. Accounting, you can work from home. Real estate lawyer, you can work from home. There's a lot of stuff that you can do from home. A lot of the tech.
So now.
Yeah, a lot of the tech industry works from home. So think about that. Make it work for you. But we don't let our kids have that freedom. And it's really sad. It's really sad that we are so wrapped up in being able to go to a cocktail party and say that, little Mary or little Toby is going to X, more than to say, yeah, you know what, they're going to community college. I ain't paying a dingle, and we're all happy. No one wants to say that.
Yeah, I do hear that. It's kind of funny, but so our situation is a little interesting because we homeschool. They've never been to real school before, like real school, but they've been to brick and mortar school. And so our plan before we moved to Guam was to have them do the high school and college thing. So they basically would have graduated from high school at 17 or whatever age and had associate's degree, and then be able to choose their deal after that and just spend 2 years. And so they'd be under 20 years old and out there with a piece of paper that, whatever they do with it. But, there's so many hacks these days that you really don't have to. And I mean, vocational school is fantastic. So you mentioned plumbing, but if you're in places in America where heating and cooling is needed, then that skill is amazing to have. Because you will not be out of a job. Everybody who lives in some place cold needs heat, so they need to have their furnaces taken care of, et cetera, et cetera. And everybody who lives in some place that's hot needs air conditioning, so they need to have their air conditioner service. So you will not be without a job, no matter what's going on with the economy. So,
you won't.
You have to start thinking outside the box as to what kind of things you can do that will be, will give you sustenance, right?
Yes, and look at the people around you. I remember during Hurricane Irma, we were without power for weeks and weeks, and we needed a generator. So we had this gentleman come out to install a generator. Now, he had a company. He was an electrician. Came out and installs a generator. As he's doing this in the middle of the darkness, my husband's holding up a flashlight. My husband comes and goes, he has $100,000 Rolex on his wrist.
Yes, boom.
And he goes, I went into the wrong business. Yeah. I go, of course, because in Florida, you're going to make money because you're installing generators.
Oh, yeah.
And people are paying, and it's the same thing for heat. It's the same thing for that. There is so much that you can learn, and so much right now in the tech industry, I feel, that you can learn through a vocational school, that you don't need to have a 4-year degree from a high-name university to be able to do well. No.
It's always a little bit comical because so I'm a physician, right? So it was a lot of years of training and sacrifice, etc. But I look at friends who came out the gate and they just they got their bachelor's or whatever, and then they started working, and I'm like, you do realize that you should really be a millionaire by now. I have a harder time becoming a millionaire than you do because you have time. And so I think that the other thing that people are not taught or don't think about is how to invest and how to save at an early age so that they can benefit from the time value of money.
Yes. Yeah. We don't teach the time value of money. We don't teach compounded interest in school in a way that children, because we teach it. I mean, they do go through a math segment and they learn, you do this, but we don't teach it in a relatable way. I'm always shocked when I do, like I said, that when I sit down with the seniors and I talk about credit cards, and I whip out a really nice designer bag and I hold it up and I go, how much do you think this costs? Everybody says the name. And I said, but wait a minute, you put it on your Visa. So it didn't cost this because it took you 5 years to pay this purse off. So this purse actually cost you $10,000. And they're all like freaked out. I go, that's the time value of money. And while it can grow in your savings, it can hurt you when you take on debt. And debt is more expensive than what they're paying you to save it. So I think that needs to be taught in a very easy, relatable, concrete way. I so agree with you on that. I also feel that we come out of the box, out of the gate, right, having graduated, and there's so many expectations. And I tell people, why? Why do you have this expectation that you must buy a home here, and you get into these incredible mortgages when you have student debt a lot of times, and now you can't afford anything? Now you're miserable. You better like that house a lot because you aren't going anywhere. You're not going to dinner. You're not going on vacation. You're not doing anything. Okay, that house better be everything and a hot tamale on top of that, because that's where they're gonna bury you in the backyard. So I wish people would think about that, because they don't. I'm like, why do we feel a need? Yes, and we should buy a home at some point, but you don't have to do it right out of the box. You don't.
You really don't. It's so funny because we do tell, like, whenever I get my hands on a residence, I will always tell them, like, look, you get done with this, you live like a resident for like 5 years. Like, you drive like the same car. You just don't, like, you get your debt. Because, I mean, they have some ridiculous debt. Like, I went to a state medical school, and I was in state, so I did not pay that much money. And so it's like, yeah, my mom was smart. And so basically, they come out and they have like $300,000 in debt, like easy. Plus, and that's not even including their undergrad. So I'm like, no, you need to live like a resident. You need to keep thinking that, this is all you're getting, and you survive just fine on this amount of money. So you need to continue that, and all that extra, you just pay off those loans. Just get it off your back.
Yes. Well, we had growing up, my husband had a friend who went to medical school, and he did it on student loans, and he then went to work at the VA, and everybody was like, why is he working at the VA? He could be in private practice. He could be doing this. No,
brilliant.
It was brilliant because they paid his loan. And no one could understand this. I'm like, they're paying his loan. I would try to explain to people, I'm like, they're paying his loan. They're like, but no, he could be in private practice. Well, he'd be in private practice pulling every on-call duty, okay, and making minimal. No percentage yet, because he would not be a partner in that practice. He would be an employee making nothing. He was very smart. He lived, but again, like you said, he drove his little car that his parents had gotten him when he graduated high school. He drove that to his wedding. They lived in his townhouse. And in fact, I think they rented the townhouse. They rented this townhouse. The townhouse was horrid. It had horrible shag carpeting. They ended up, when this was all over, they waited to have children. That was another thing. They waited. They did not rush to have kids. When he left the VA and had all the student loans, all of a sudden it was, boom, there's the $1 million house. Boom, there's their Mercedes. Boom, there's the baby. And they are set up. Mm-hmm. And no one could understand it, because we live in a society where everything is on demand and must be given to me immediately.
No delayed gratification is a foreign concept.
Oh, it's a completely foreign concept. I mean, it's one I really try to instill in my kids, but it's hard because you can get on your phone and go to Uber Eats and have cupcakes in your house in 20 minutes. And you can't, I mean, it's like Star Trek. We're going to have a replicator soon. We're just going to ask for it and it'll appear. But I'm like, that's not the way it works. You have to actually work for it.
No, absolutely true. Absolutely true. Wow. Yeah. No, this is the truth.
It's unfortunately the ugly, nasty truth no one wants to talk about.
Yeah, no, it's real. It's real talk for sure. Mm-hmm. So that brings me to a question for you. So then how did you, so after you did all this and you got into the coaching of women, empowering them, did you have any fear as you were embarking on the venture of entrepreneurship? Like, did you feel fear there or no?
If I don't feel fear once a week, I'm not doing it right. That's literally, yeah. I think
I love that.
If I'm not having some sort of anxiety, I'm not doing it right. Yes, of course I have. I have always second guessed maybe the minutia, but never the big thing. I never second guessed leaving my job and starting my company. I have not second guessed our mission ever. Have I second guessed, well, maybe it wasn't the right time to release that, or maybe it wasn't the right time to do this. Look, 2020 was a year of second guessing. I had a whole business plan set up for that year. I remember slaving over it. We had launched in September. We had the book become a bestseller in December. You're going to go out and do a book tour now. You're going to be traveling the whole year, and a global pandemic happened. Right. Yeah, we make plans. God laughs, and God had a doozy of a. He probably fell down and peed his pants laughing at me. But honest to God, do I second guess myself? Yes. During that year, I think I second guessed myself on should I have invested money in that. If I hadn't invested money in that for the business, which now I can't use because of the pandemic, I could be doing this. Yes, I think I do that all the time. But those are the small things. And hindsight is 2020. And I think as a entrepreneur, you fail and you learn. And there have been things that I have done that I have not been incredibly happy with. It's funny, we did a huge revamping of the website at one point, and I ended up really retooling it all over 2020 because I needed to be much more digital. And my website was great, but it was great for a business where I was coaching outside of the home. I was traveling, I was meeting people, and it didn't work for the virtual world that I was going to embark in. So yeah, I mean, I had money put into my second book. The book was supposed to drop fall of 2020. So I had to kind of push back and kind of release the book. I remember sitting down talking with other women, and this is why I say it's so important that we network, and saying, what are you guys doing with your books? Are you going to release? Are you not going to release? So yeah, I think that's important. Like right now, we're doing a big push for our divorce side, the divorce side of Empowered Worth. And it's something that at the beginning when we started it, I got a little bit of pushback from my base. They were all like, why are you concentrating on divorce? Then the Gates divorce hit the news cycle, and now everybody's like, we get why you're doing that. And it's because we can look at data, which I love to look at, and see that trends are coming. So yeah, but yeah, I go through fear all the time. To go back to the question.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that you shared that, it's kind of like part of entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm. It is. If you're not, I think fear it lets you know you're alive in a lot of ways. If you're not scared, you're not risking. And if you're not risking, you're not going to make money.
Yes.
That's just the truth of it.
Yep. And you're not growing at all.
Yeah. Yeah, you're playing it you're playing it too close to the vest. You need to have a little bit, and quite frankly, if you were risking and had no fear, that would be the definition of insanity.
Yes, indeed. Oh my God. Oh, so many truth bombs. Yeah. So, so you have to let everybody know how they can get in contact with you.
Oh, well, the best way, visit our website, www.empoweredworth.com. That's EMPOWEREDWORTH.com. And I'm on all social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. It's all, if you put at Empowered Worth in any of those, you'll find me. I'm on YouTube as well. It's the Empowered Worth channel. And those are the best ways to really reach us. And if you go to the website on there, I do have a 15 free minute coaching session that I love to give people. If you're even considering you have any questions, you'd be surprised how much we can work out in 15 minutes. But maybe it's something you're thinking of. And there's also a couple of other free things there. So go to the website.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So we're at the part of the show where we do the fill in the blanks. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So the first one is, to me, fearless freedom means.
Fearless freedom means being true to yourself.
Sweet. And then the next one is, if I am fearless, I will.
If I am fearless, I will accomplish everything I set my heart. Just content to.
And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
My battle cry is I am worthy.
Love it. Thank you for coming on and sharing your nuggets with the Fearless Freedom Tribe. We appreciate you, and we wish you everything successful in the business and life, in love, everything. So,
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.